Basically like late plus excuse equals being on time. And that's how we justify these things. Welcome to the Have It All podcast. I'm Elon Ferdman, and along with my brother Guy, we're Satori Prime. We've spent the last 16 years on a quest of mastery, and not just in business, all areas. Mastery of our finances, our bodies, our relationships, and most importantly, our minds. You see, while most people fantasize about their dream life, we went out and created it. And you bet we learned a few things along the way. So if you want to gain new skills and tools that will help you achieve the life of your dreams, well, you've come to the right place. So get ready to have your mind expanded. Implement what you learn here today, and you'll start living the life of your dreams instead of just, well, dreaming about it. So are you ready to have it all? Let's go. All right. So first of all, welcome to you guys. This is part 3 of our Have It All Academy series. We're shooting to do 10. That's what we've mapped out so far. But due to feedback and things like that, we'll see. Maybe we'll add some, maybe we'll subtract some. The idea is to give you guys as much value as possible. That's one, obviously. For you guys to get a understanding of how we operate, how we coach, how we train. That's 2. And 3, make you aware of ways that you can continue on this journey with us, whether that's in our coaching community, the Have It All Academy, and or our live event. So I'll let you know all the details about that as we go down the road. But the conversation I want to have with you guys today is a conversation around integrity and what we say, honoring your word as law, honoring yourself. So I mentioned in a video, and I don't know how many of you guys get to see it on Facebook, about what is the reason that most of us talk about certain things that we really want and never achieve them. Why is it that we have all these goals, we talk about all these things, and yet very little movement is occurring in our lives? And what I want to assert to you guys today, and what I want you to start hearing from the lens, is that it has to do with your lack of integrity. Now, I don't want you, when I say that, for you to go, oh, I'm a bad person, and right? We dealt with that last time. This has nothing to do with morality. This is not good or bad. This is when you choose, right? In part 2, we were talking about responsibility. When you choose to be responsible for your own life, when you say, yes, I'm at the source of all of it, then if you get to that part, then the next part is, well, how do you alter the certain circumstances? How do you move forward in your life? And that all boils down to integrity. And so I want you guys to write down this line. This is really, really important. This is a major, major crux of our Have It All process. And that is, without integrity, nothing works. I'll say it again. Without integrity, nothing works. So I want to give you an example of what integrity looks like in the real world, okay? So first of all, the definition of integrity is a state of being whole, undivided, complete, okay? Did you hear perfect in there? Nope, didn't hear perfect in there. Did you hear superhuman? Nope, not superhuman, right? Did you hear, the smartest person? No. Simply what we're talking about here is being whole and complete, being undivided. So the example I want to give you is the example of a simple bike wheel. So you guys remember probably those bike wheels. I don't know if some of you guys did this, but where you would kind of clip the playing card to the wheel. So as it would run through the spokes, it would make a sound like you were in a motorcycle or something. I used to do that. It was very annoying to everybody else, but I enjoyed it tremendously. It's also probably why I drive a very loud car today. In any event, a spoke of a wheel, like the wheel is structured, right? You have the center piece and then you have the spokes in every direction. The spokes on the wheel, the job is to keep the wheel perfectly round, right? So as you're going down the road, it works. Integrity is the wheel, okay? Every spoke is part of that wheel. Now, if a spoke breaks on your bike, are you still able to ride that bike? Absolutely, right? If one spoke is broken on that bike, you can still ride that bike. But in physics, here's what actually happens. Every time now that the wheel comes around to that piece where the spoke is missing, it is not going to be as complete, right? Like it's not whole. That part is now less, what's the word I'm looking for? Less strength in that part. And every time it's going to hit, it's going to start loosening and loosening and loosening the rest of the structure. Till eventually another spoke pops and another spoke pops and another spoke pops. And then eventually you have a wheel that no longer works. Okay. Now, when we say without integrity, nothing works, the reason I say that is this. And I'd like you guys to participate in this question. It's not a rhetorical question. How many of you have had, you could just say yes or no. How many of you have had situations with somebody else where something happened and what you did was you went, I'll just sweep it under the rug? How many of you guys have had that experience? You're human. You must have. Like it's a human phenomena, right? It's like, I'll let this one slide. Now, if you can think back to one of those examples and experiences, have you noticed how that letting it slide or sweeping it under the rug somehow manifested into something much, much worse? Maybe a week, a month, a year, freaking 5 years down the road. Have you guys noticed that just comes back to bite you right in the ass? So the guys that said yes before, do you guys yeah, right? Isn't that fascinating? And yet we somehow don't learn the lesson because we do it time and time and time again, right? The state that we want to bring you guys back to, yeah, even 40 years is Kathleen. Hey, Kathleen, good to see you here. What I'm talking about is that, right? When you say, I'm not going to deal with that, I'm going to just sweep it under the rug, that's like a spoke being broken. You're still living, right? Still alive, still doing amazing things, still happy for the most part, right? It's not the end of the world. But over time, that stuff builds up. And I guarantee you that some, if not most of you, have had situations where you've let something slide and sweep it under the rug. And if you actually look back, that one instance was the demise of the relationship. Because what ends up happening is that one sweeping under the rug, that's like when you put a wedge in something to create space, right? In the beginning, there's not much space. You just stick that one wedge. But that's what happens when you have these withholds, when you have these small little lies, when you have these out of integrity moments, it's like sticking a wedge. And over time, that wedge splits wider and wider. And it's very difficult at some point to go back and recreate and get back to that place once that process has started. So the idea that I want you guys to really understand is without integrity, nothing works. Your word to others and to yourself needs to be processed as law, as the highest order. If you can't, at the very minimum, honor your word, then there's no chance on God's green earth that you can manifest the life of your dreams. Now, I know that might not be the thing you came here to hear tonight. But if you let yourself weasel out of your own agreements, if you promise things to people and don't do them, if you promise things to yourself and don't do them, then it's like the boy who cries wolf, right? At some point, the universe or God stops listening. They're like, this person's not serious. they're not a real player. And so your job, if you choose to accept it, is to go back and clean up where you've been lazy and cheap with your word, where you've just let it slide. Because every one of those things is another spoke in the wheel. It's another place where you've just sold out on yourself and your word. Is this landing, guys? I just want to check in before we go to the next part. Is this making sense? Let me just check the Q&A box. Chandra, thank you. Guys, is this landing for you? Okay, awesome. Joanne, I think you and I are going to get along just great. Awesome. Thanks, all. So now let's think about like basic stuff, because I want to give you examples of this, so it's not just some ether stuff. I want to give you like in real world, what does this look like? In real world, okay, you say to someone, I'm going to meet you at this restaurant at 7 o'clock for dinner. Okay. Now, interestingly enough, as I said, I'm just reminded, back in the day, before we had cell phones and all of that kind of stuff on us, we were much more integrous about doing stuff like that. You remember? Because once you told someone you were going to be somewhere, your ass better be there, right? Because there was no opportunity to just message them and say, hey, sorry, I can't make it, right? Like you had no way to contact them. I remember if I'd set up time to play with my friends in the park at X amount of time to go play basketball, I showed up to go play basketball. Hey, what's up, broski? Don't look so serious. It's not that serious. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello, hello? All right, maybe not. So in any event, when you say to someone, hey, I'm going to show up there at 7 o'clock, or you have a commitment and agreement to show up at work at 9 a.m. Now, all of us have been late to something. You're human. It doesn't matter. Shit happens. Life happens, right? Like you've been late to stuff. But check in with yourself if this is your experience. Has your experience been that you show up late and then what you do is you go, oh, it was really bad traffic. Or, oh, you won't believe what happened with my kids this morning. Or, oh, I was up really late last night. I woke up late. How many of you guys know exactly what I'm talking about? When you show up late, that's the way that you basically respond.
Hey, brother. I'm just checking. Can you hear me and or see me?
I can do both with my eyes and my ears.
Hello. Look at this view I got, by the way, while they're pondering those questions.
Wow, that's really nice.
Yeah. Hey, everybody.
That's beautiful.
From 7 hours of training into a training.
That's right.
Do this thing.
Into giving value.
Do this thing.
So
that's right.
We're talking about integrity and little things. So like when you guys do that, right? Here's the way the brain works. Here's the way the ego works. The ego works something like this. When you show up late to something and you give an excuse to the ego, that's me being on time. Basically like late plus excuse equals being on time. And that's how we justify these things. Again, this is the normal state of human beings, right? Every single one of us is guilty of it. Not in a bad way, just this is the way we operate. What we're looking for is how do we go from operating, Stuart Wilde uses this kind of interesting scale, which I want to use because I think it's really interesting. It's like if the normal human being vibrates at 20,000 cycles per second, okay, that's the vibration. And then someone who's like a Buddha, right, will vibrate at 100,000 cycles per second, right? You can kind of see like there's a big gap there. 99% of human beings are operating at 20,000. Every single one of you here, I'm asserting, is here because you're already starting to vibrate at different frequencies. I know that to be true because you're here. Guy and I don't attract 20,000ers, you know? It's not. We just don't, because we don't speak their language. We don't believe what they believe. We're not into the whole negativity, blame victimhood game. We don't buy that shit, and neither do you, which is why you're here. So I know that I'm speaking to people that are committed to not having normal life, but are committed to having extraordinary lives. And because of that, what you guys need to understand is every time that you operate in the norm, every time you operate with, I show up late, I give an excuse, and that's okay, you've bought into the norm. And the norm gets you normal results. So this is like basic shit 101, right? Now,
I just want to interject real quick. So hold on to that thought, please. Also, being extraordinary doesn't mean living a life of perfection or always being at peak or showing up every single day like, I'm going to take on the whole fucking planet. It's like none of that. There's a commitment to an extraordinary type of living, and there's a responsibility and integrity that you have to create as a habit that comes along with making that consistent so that life ongoingly becomes more and more extraordinary.
Exactly. So I'm giving you this point because it's very, very little. So what would an extraordinary human being do, right? An extraordinary human being, and this is not at all that extraordinary, it's just this is what extraordinary human beings do, is the second you know that you cannot achieve or accomplish the thing that you have promised. And by the way, promises are not just verbal promises. When you take a job, for example, and that job says you start at 9 a.m., whether you've said, I'm going to be here at 9 a.m. or not, by the virtue of you taking that job, you've agreed now to that agreement. Right? There's a lot of things that we agree to that aren't necessarily verbal. It's just you have an expectation of what you're supposed to do. And whether someone else is requiring that of you or not, like, you have that. So the easiest way to do things is, for example, I did this yesterday with dinner. At 6:15, I was at a meeting with a buddy of mine, and I knew as this was going on, I had a 7 o'clock dinner reservation with another couple of people. I knew at 6:15 that I was not going to make our dinner reservation at 7. And as soon as you know that you are not going to be able to make the promise or make the agreement, you get in touch with the person that makes a difference to, and you let them know. Now, by yeses and nos, or, whatever you want to say, is that a difficult thing to do? Is contacting someone the second you know that you can't fulfill difficult for you? Joanne says no. Anybody else?
And while you guys are pondering that, are you clear about why being in communication then creates a system? I'm assuming you told them that integrity is workability at this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So do you guys understand why giving your word again to another agreement, you didn't break your previous agreement. You're just honoring your word again. Like, you're putting that back in place. Why that creates workability for you inside the communication of that relationship.
Exactly.
You guys get that?
Yeah. And that's a really good point. So guys, this is not rocket science, super hard, like, oh my God stuff. But can you see that as soon as you do that, you've stopped the spoke from popping out of the wheel? You've kept the integrity of that wheel, and it moves with ease. Now, the reason most people struggle, they're tired, everything seems like work and effort, is because all of these things have popped out. The wheel is no longer true. It takes a lot more effort to move a bike with broken wheels, right? So when you guys understand this, this is like basic, showing up on time. If you give your word to someone about doing a project or doing something for them or someone else, and you've said, hey, it's going to take me 3 days to do this, and you realize, well, fuck, 2 days have gone by, I haven't even touched this thing. Like, There's no way I'm going to get this done. How many times do we just say, you know what, whatever?
Well, this is so key, guys. Like here's the thing. We forget why we have agreements in the first place, okay? So like an agreement is to create a system, a self-contained system of accountability and workability. So when things fall out like that, what agreements do is they establish trust in your relationships. And the moment you let integrity fall out, what you get is a lack of trust. Now, these little things build up over time, and it could be those littlest things, like I'll pick up my socks today and you don't do it. Again, not about keeping the promise, about honoring your word so that the what's the word I'm looking for? So that the way they relate to you has trust in it. And this is what happens over time. We give our word to stuff. We don't have integrity to honor that word. People start losing trust for you. And then you have a family member, you go, well, they don't listen to me anymore. Why don't they listen to you anymore? Why? Because you've shown up consistently over time and time again, to have no integrity. And it starts with like the little things and it works up to the big things. But when the person's like, shit, they can't even throw out the trash when they say that they will, you think they're going to trust you with anything else? And then you go and blame them for the fact that they're not listening to you anymore while you're doing the same thing back to them, right? So again, like all this stuff is this broken system because we so don't want to look bad in other people's eyes that we end up not calling ourselves out on the times that we're out of integrity because we're more worried about looking good than we are about having relationships that fucking work.
Yep.
So if you can give up that you have to look good all the time, actually, I would say that like where you have power isn't getting really good at calling yourself out on your shit, right? And letting other people know, hey, I'm going to start holding myself accountable to all these areas of my life so that this relationship has trust again. And then you get the listening back. Suddenly you have power in the relationship. Changes everything.
So I want to share with you guys a story, which guy just reminded me of, about relationship and trust and integrity. I was participating. I think I was a participant. I wasn't even a coach. I don't remember. I was either a participant or a coach in the seminar. And I was someone who was always there, always on time. If I wasn't, I always communicated. That's how I trained everyone around me to see me. One Sunday when we had class, I didn't show up. And I didn't show up because I went out, I got hammered the night before, and at Saturday night, I already knew I was not making it to that class, okay? So I turned my phone off, I let myself sleep late, all of this stuff. So the class starts at 10. I woke up, it was maybe 1:30 in the afternoon. I have about 8 messages on my phone. And I'm like, oh shit. I start listening to these messages. I have one from my coach. I have one from the head coach. I have one from the course leader. And the course leader basically says, Elon, if I don't hear back from you in 10 minutes, we're calling the police because the only way that you're not here at this class is because you're either dead or you've been abducted. Now, why am I telling you this? Is because I train these people that my word was so important to me that the only thing that they could ponder of why I wasn't showing up was something cataclysmic must have happened to me for me not to honor my word. So obviously I felt like dog shit, right? Because I felt like I let these people down. I broke, like Guy said, that trust, and I had to earn it back. And it's very easy to gain trust. It's once you lose it, it's so hard to get it back. The first shot is much easier than getting it back again. But I say this to you because when you train people a certain way, your life shows up a certain way. People hold you account a certain way. And I want to take it a step further and say to you that when you, and this Ole asked this question, and this is step 2, and this is really the important stuff. This is like basic, right? Honor your word, do what you said you would do, buy when you said you would do it, make promises, like that stuff is easy. Where this gets real tricky is to yourself. And Ole asked, what if you don't live up to the agreement you have with yourself? And this is where our work really lies. This is where the Have It All Academy really excels, is we are the sleaziest with ourselves. We will let ourselves slide way faster than we will let ourselves slide in others. Because like Guy said, when you're all about looking good to others, even if that's your driving force, you'll do things because you know someone else is waiting. But for you, how often does this happen? Hey, I want to quit smoking. 3 days later, what are you doing? Smoking. Hey, I want to stop eating sugar. 2 days later, what are you doing? Eating cake, right? It's because we will let ourselves slide much more often than anybody else. And here's the thing, Ole, to your question specifically, we spoke about this in part one. There's two parts of you. There's the authentic self, the soul, the infinite part of you, the God part of you, and there's the ego. And so when you make an agreement, you know, people call it the monkey brain or whatever. When you make an agreement, the monkey brain sits there and goes, yeah, we'll see. You haven't done this. You haven't done that. Why do you think you're going to do this? How often do you guys hear that shit in your head? Right? And why does that happen? Because over time, you've shown your ego that when you say you're going to do things, you don't. And so every time you do that, if you're like, I'm going to start waking up at 5:30 in the morning, and you don't, the ego goes, yep, figured. Every time you say, hey, I'm going to do this for my husband, and you don't, it goes, told you. And so you start building this cycle where you basically are pumping the ego full of power and energy. And this, my friends, is what robs you of having the life of your dreams. Because you're handing power over to, at best, your worst enemy, who has no interest in you finding love, who has no interest in you finding success, who has no interest in you having loving, compassionate, amazing, juicy relationships, who has no interest in you looking amazing, feeling amazing. Nothing. It has one interest: stay the fuck alive. That's it.
At really any expense.
At
any expense. And now here's a little distinction I want to make also. So last week we talked about responsibility and having that distinct from blame. So always asking the question about having integrity, right? Integrity with self, integrity with others. It doesn't really matter, because look, where people, again, shy away from integrity is because they collapse it with responsibility, and they have a responsibility collapse with blame. Now, every time you're out of integrity, the reason when you show up late to places and you make that excuse is that you don't want to be blamed for what just happened, that you were cause in the matter of not getting there on time. So you say, well, the traffic jam happened. I didn't expect that to happen. I guess I'm not to blame, right? And the reason you do that is most people, when they blame themselves, they feel guilty, or they start, what's it called? They start like blaming them, not blaming themselves. Let's say not blame, shame. They start blaming or shaming themselves, right? And when you do that, here's the thing. I want you to look at your life at any time that you felt guilt, blame, or shame when something didn't go the way that you expected it to. And I want you to think if you can find one experience where, whether you beat yourself up physically or emotionally, did that move the needle forward in terms of you being able to create the result you want, have the relationship that you want, the health that you want, anything else, right? And if you can't find a circumstance, and I would guess that you can't, then I would have you take a look, or at least consider that using guilt, shame, or blame on yourself is a broken model for you achieving the results that you want and the relationships that you want to have in your life. And if that's the case, then why are you doing that? So the key here is that taking responsibility is completely distinct from blame, right? And putting your integrity back in, if all you do is go to that place, then I guarantee you are not going to get the results that you want to get. Integrity is not a moral issue. I don't know if Elon said that before because I wasn't here.
I did.
It's not a moral issue. Yeah, it's just about, sorry for the wait, it's just about workability. That's it. So if you're willing to have, if you're looking for workability in your life, in your relationships, around your health, around your relationship to money, at the end of the day, it's all relationships really is where integrity matters. It's just your relationship to that thing, but to create distinctions around different areas of life. If you want workability, got to have integrity. But stop making it a moral issue. It starts becoming really light and fluffy. And it's like, oh shit, that doesn't work. How do I get integrity back in? Who do I need to have a conversation for so I can start honoring my word again about the thing that I said? But it always comes back to you like taking responsibility for where you let it fall out and then having a conversation again and put it back in.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So I want you to imagine, if you guys can see this, like imagine that the box that you see is a projector, okay? And if I'm not here, right? If I'm just standing here, you can see that perfectly, right? No obstruction other than this microphone in the way. No obstruction. You see it clean, right? Every time there's an out integrity of your life, here's what I want you to imagine. Life is still projecting, okay? But here it's like a perfect, clean life. But then you get one of these, out integrity. Then you get one of these, out integrity. You can still see this, right? So to you and to your brain, it's like, well, I can kind of still see. And then this happens. And then this happens. And this happens. And you can see, right? You can still see. But are you seeing the same picture? Are you seeing the same thing? Are you seeing the same life? You're not. You're seeing it through a distorted lens of what the projector can show with all these other squeegee blacked out spots. When we talk about cleaning up integrity, it's just literally removing this and removing that so that now life can show up in a way that it hasn't for some of you for decades. When this stuff happens, like when your brain gets this, when you let go of this and you start doing this work, I'm not kidding you. If you've seen The Matrix, it feels like being unplugged. Trees will look different colors. People will be more beautiful than ever. You will have ideas that will come from, you won't even know where they're coming from. I was just working with one of my personal coaching clients today, and you guys have all heard this line, which is the only person in your way is you. Like you have all the tools. Everything is inside of you guys. There's no secret. You're not broken. You're not, Guy and I are not more talented, nothing. We've just been doing this work a lot longer. That's it. So I want you to imagine that everything in your life is just, it's like waiting at the doorstep. But in front of this door, you've put decades of pain and unresolved issues and fears and a million things that you promised yourself that you would do that you didn't do. And it's just like barricading the door. And all this goodness is just dying to get to you. It's like, I would love to be there in your life. But for most people, they're just not willing to do the work to clean up the shit, to get to the door and just open it. This girl today shared an unbelievable story with me. I finally got her to a place where she got the courage to leave, to stop working with a certain client. Because as she's kind of elevated, right, like the frequency elevates, what ends up showing up is how inconsistent people are with the way that you are. The contrast is much, much greater as you start moving up. That's what I'm saying. Like you're here clearly because you vibrate at a certain level. Otherwise, you wouldn't feel this. And so it was a scary proposition, right? To drop this client because it just didn't align with where she was at right now in her life. We go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I said, listen, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not a fortune teller. I don't pretend to be. But here's how I know this shit works. When you make room for something else to show up, that thing is just waiting to show up. Two things can't occupy the same place at the same time. So remove one and intentionally create the other And this is what's called like master manifesting, right? People that vibrate at really high levels where they speak something into existence and that thing gets created. That's what Guy and I are all about. Just manifest faster. Have your word. When you treat your word as God, when you treat your word as law, you realize that this word manifests your life. When you complain, guess what? Your life will show up as one big complaint. So you want to be really diligent about the thoughts that you have, about the words that you have, about all of that. And all of this leads to you cleaning up the clutter, cleaning up the shit, so that the life that's just, it's guys, I promise you, it's right here. It's not like they're decades in the distance. It is literally right in front of you. The question is, are you willing to do what it takes? Are you willing to put in the work to get the clutter, to eliminate the shit that is in the way? And that means cleaning up relationships, cleaning up where you've screwed people over or fucked a certain circumstance over or anything like that. Anytime you eliminate stuff from your life that no longer serves you, you are making more and more room for that to show up.
So let me just jump in here because I want to really push this home. So the next step, like Elon is saying and describing, is that integrity is the gap between what you say and having that manifest itself in the physical universe. So this is our creation tool. Like language is a creation tool. There's a whole process that happens down to the sensory parts in your body, but we're just, want to stick to this very important thing about your words, your thinking, and them being vocalized are both putting out energy. Literally, we can measure this stuff, right, in science today. And I'm not a religious person, but there's a reason that the first words in the Bible are, and God spoke, meaning like the universe comes into existence with words. And that is the human physical experience. Language is our access to that. So if you're interested in having and developing the power that allows you to say something and then watch the circumstances align and manifest that thing in the physical universe in a shorter and shorter period of time, your access to that is getting every area of your life back into integrity, back into alignment with that. And this is where we find with coaching clients all the time where they're like, I want to break through in our finances. And we'll say, well, how's your relationship with your dad? And they go, what the fuck does that have to do with my finances? And then you go and you dig into the relationship and it's like, that's in tatters, right? Like they haven't talked in like decades. Okay. So you start working on the relationship with dad, you start getting integrity back in that relationship. Then you start seeing that when that breakthrough happens, now, because we say the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. So breakthroughs don't stick into the single area that you have the breakthrough in. They manifest everywhere. They start going in all areas of your life. Now, you might not see that your relationship with your dad also gives you the relationship with authority figures in your life. So every time you've been walking into your boss's office, you've been relating to that person like it's your father. And because of that, you talk like a little Minnie Mouse when you're in there and they don't sense power coming out of you. Suddenly your relationship with your father is cleaned up. It's back in integrity. You have a completely different relationship to authority. You start walking to the boss's office, showing up, being different, right? And on and on and on like this, right? With like how you don't understand that these old relationships, not old, but like your originating relationships have given you practices in all areas of your life. And then you are taking away your power everywhere and just responding to people. So when you start doing this work in all areas, and that's why Elon and I say having it all, because what we believe in is a life that you can have integrity at every area of life that really matters to you. And not just a little bit, but like having it work at a 10 for you. I mean, it's not a coincidence that Elon and I are doing reasonably well in business. That you see us like you can say we're young guys, but we're fit guys. We travel the world. We have the lifestyle that we have. I'm telling you right now, if you've ever wondered how are these two schmucks achieving all these things, I'm telling you, if you ask me that point blank, I'd be like, oh, I live my life inside the context of integrity. That's it. That's made all the difference in the world. But again, people are so obsessed with looking good and avoiding looking bad in other people's eyes that they completely avoid doing this kind of stuff. Where Elon and I have built capacity to understand that we've done it so many times that we see the pattern and the results that it gets us in life. right? And the relationships that we get to have and how we get to communicate to people, and that our authenticity and our integrity matters to our students. And because of that, they start getting results in their life. And now our impact is not just in our life, but it's in the lives of others. That makes us feel fucking amazing every day when we get up and we go to sleep. So if that's the kind of life that you're looking for and you're like, well, I don't really want to do that, I'll find a different way, I say good luck, right? Good luck. But this is really, really intentional work. And if you don't have to anything, but you can make a commitment towards living a life that has integrity inside of it.
This is why, to Guy's point, this is why people, I just got this email. I've read all these books. I've listened to all these Tony Robbins seminars. My life still looks exactly the same. I'm like, no shit. No shit. Guys, the work is done on the court, not in your head. Right? And so here's what I want to complete this with. Everything in your life is a relationship. Everything. What we're talking about now, this conversation, is your relationship to your word. The stuff that comes out of your mouth, that's a relationship. When you honor that relationship at the absolute highest level, you've unlocked the magic to your life. When you're sleazy with your word, most people's relationship to word is like yeah, maybe it kind of would be nice. Like if you're being honest with yourself, like rate your relationship to your word. And so if you want to understand how to get that word, that integrity back in your life, I want to give you some areas that you can just inquire in when we get off of this about at what level is that relationship, and rank it on a scale of 1 to 10. There are areas in every single one of your lives where you've literally stuck your head in the sand and you do not want to look up because you just do not want to deal with it. That is a 0. That's a 0, right? Certain people have that maybe in the areas of debt, right? Like you've collected bad debt, you're just avoiding debt collectors. I'm not saying that's a great place to be. I was there, but I was there in communication. Because I'm clear, like sticking your head in the sand, when you put your head out of the sand, it's still fucking there, right? The situation is still there. It doesn't go away. So areas that I want you guys to inquire in and just look, right, for this next week, just play. Look in these areas and see, think of one action in an area where you can go and clean something up. And clean something up is like, hey, John, I'm super sorry. I've been an absolute asshole. I just realized that I've absolutely been avoiding this situation. And the reason I've been doing it is because I was afraid that if I said to you that I wasn't going to be able to do X, Y, and Z, that you would hate me, that you'd never talk to me. I realized that's all stuff in my head. Your relationship, this circumstance means a lot to me. And I'm not committed to doing that. I'm not committed to having this kind of relationship with you. So I'm sorry for not having done it before. I know it's going to take us a little bit to build this rapport back up. And I'm recommitting to X, Y, and Z. And if for whatever reason I cannot complete it by this date that I've told you, my promise from now on is that I will communicate that with you the second I know that it's not going to happen. So this doesn't drag on. Okay? Simple, right? This is not like rocket science conversations. Guess what? If you are on the receiving end of that conversation, for most people, having that thing is terrifying. And you'll probably be terrified too. But think about what it's like to be on the other end of that. Are you like, wow, this person's a scumbag, I never want to talk to them again? Or are you going, wow, that took some major balls to do what this person just did? That's incredible. Like, that's a person that I want to work with, right? So other areas to look at: debt, finances, anything in that world. Incomplete relationships. Everywhere that you've let stuff just pile up under the carpet and it's just eating you up inside. This is why people get cancer. Eating you up inside. So relationships to look at. Obviously, the topmost one that impacts everyone's life, your relationship to your mother and father. And if they've passed away, still your relationship to mother and father. I don't care. Clean it up in a note. Write a note. Forgive yourself. Forgive them. Do whatever it takes. Clear that channel, clear that space. Other ones, if you've been through a divorce and you're just holding hatred to your ex, right? There's that amazing line, the guy and I love. Hating someone is like you drinking the poison and hoping the other person dies. You're just killing yourself. Okay? Divorce, relationship with kids, ex-girlfriends, ex-partners, anything like that, those are great places to inquire. Your relationship to your body, right? We all, maybe when you were 13, someone said something about your body. You've bought that shit hook, line, and sinker. You're now 50. You still operate through that, you're the fat girl in camp, you're the fat girl in camp story. And then lastly, the other one I want to tell you, which this one was kind of very last on our radar for a long time, I would say your relationship to God or your relationship to religion more appropriately. I'm not saying you have to love religion. I, for one, think organized religion is a bunch of crap. Having said that, all of us at some point, most of us, I should say, at some point in our lives when we were young, had some sort of experience with God or with religion that rubbed us the wrong way. Hopefully this is figuratively, not literally for some people, but I know for some people that's also literal. You need to find forgiveness in there too. You need to clean that stuff up. And it doesn't need to be with the person or with the thing. This is all work for you guys. This is to unclutter, to clean up that screen so that life can show up the way that life wants to show up for you. Is this?
I want to clarify something. I want to clarify one thing. So again, we're constantly working with creating distinctions between things. Like all the power in language comes from distinctions. Forgiveness is a difficult one for people, and it's difficult for the same reason that responsibility is difficult for people. When responsibility and blame are collapsed, it's difficult to take responsibility. When they're not, it's not that hard. Same thing with forgiveness. People have forgiveness and condoning collapse with one another. So for instance, unfortunately, it seems to be overwhelming. The amount of people that have been either physically or sexually abused in some way throughout their childhood is monumental. When you start becoming a coach, it's one of the things that surprised me the most is to the amount of people who've dealt with something like that. Now, if somebody has been, if a girl's been raped, for instance, obviously I don't understand that, but I can get the pain behind it, and I can connect to the emotions that must cause, even though I don't understand the act itself or what it must be like to go through that. Now, if some women, after they've been raped or some kind of abuse has happened to them, they will subconsciously program themselves to be unattractive to men. And they will use food to gain a lot of weight so that they don't get attention from men anymore. And it's actually a survival mechanism. Okay. Now, for that woman, if she were to forgive her attacker or that situation or whatever it might be, there would be a breakthrough for her, possibly in the area of health, in well-being, in her relationships, in her ability to feel safety every single day. Like lots of different areas would be impacted. Now you might think to yourself, why would a woman ever forgive her attacker? And again, like Elon said, when you forgive people, you're not forgiving them. You're forgiving them for you. It's like forgiving a debt. If I give you $10,000 and I forgive you that debt, it's like we wipe that slate clean, right? I don't get to use that against you anymore. So in that world, again, if you forgive somebody and you have a collapse of condoning, then you're going to think I'm condoning that action. We're not saying that. If that's happened to somebody, I don't condone the fact that somebody's been abused or beaten or raped or anything like that. And again, I can forgive that without condoning the action. And that's really the important part. Can you forgive yourself? Can you forgive your parents? Can you forgive bad decisions that you may have made? Can you forgive yourself for having out of integrity, right? You don't have to condone bad things that have happened to you because there are really bad fucking things that happen on this planet, but you can always find forgiveness.
Awesome. So with that, I just want to kind of end it, leave it there. I think that gave you a ton to process and think about and go through and all that stuff. And I just want to open it up to you guys. Do any of you have any questions, or any of you want to come out here and ask us something or anything like that? I'll leave it open for that for now.
Thanks, guys. I'm glad you got value from that example. It's super, super, super powerful. And while they're thinking of questions, I remember there was a kid that we worked with, or I saw being worked with many years ago. He's I want to say he's like 25, maybe 30-year-old black man. His color is not important, but I just want to kind of get an, at least illustrate the situation. And his situation was that at 7 years old, his father sat in front of him and put a gun to his own head, and then in a drunken stupor decided to point that gun at his own kid at 7 years old. Loaded. I think he actually put it in his mouth or something like that.
And he told him he was going to kill him.
And he told him he was going to kill him. And I know that's crazy. And I remember just watching, there's like a thing called structural language. It's like the way you hold your body, like how we use structure. So like this is structural language. And I remember his body language. He was like really close, like, the shoulders closed. It's like a protection mechanism, almost like a fetal position. His head was down. He couldn't look up. This is where I actually learned the forgiveness and condoning thing, was by watching him, because the person working with him took him through an exercise and got him to forgive his father, which is like fucking crazy. I was like, forgive his father? You kidding me? And I remember watching him do it. And I remember watching the freedom, like he put integrity back into the relationship with his father. And I remember the freedom that he got. And the craziest part was watching his entire structure change. Like he probably hadn't stood up straight since that day. Like imagine like 20 years. Probably hadn't looked at another human in the eyes for fear of what would happen if he got too close to somebody. Yeah. It was like smiles, like eyes change. Like these things you don't, and like Elon said, if you do this in your head, so what? You got more information in there, right? When it's put on the court and you're willing to do the work to put integrity back into these places, the impact on your life is unimaginable to you until you actually go and do it. So it's really crucial. All right. Any questions?
No, the only question is, Joanna's asking, is there subconscious techniques to use for forgiveness? I was actually typing in.
There definitely are. I've done them for the last 3-4 years. With subconscious programming, I'll just at least tell you this: you can feel shifts happening, but they're not tangible quite yet, and it takes quite a while for subconscious reprogramming to become something tangible that you can use, or even to really notice the shifts, because sometimes they're subtle. With the work that we're talking about, Elon probably told you, like, we look for techniques that give velocity to taking action in life that's consistent with the results that you want. And this on the core game that we're talking about is stuff that you can do. It's just like, there's like the woo-woo side of spirituality, which I like too. And there's the subconscious, which is a little bit more woo-woo, if I'm being honest. And there's this stuff that's like stuff you can literally do in every single interaction with every human you talk to. It's practical, it's functional, it's usable in your life. And that's why we teach this. At the live event, we're going to be doing both. We're going to show you guys how to retrain your subconscious through meditative practices. And then we're going to show you how to take that shift and use this practical stuff to apply it in your life immediately, instead of having thoughts like, oh, that felt good, I hope that carries through, or that felt good, I'll do something about this later. No, we're going to give you tools so that when you walk out into your life, that every interaction, every communication you have going forward is an ability to enhance and get you closer to taking actions that will get you the results that you actually want.
Yeah.
Right now, most of you guys are so out of integrity. You're so scared shitless to take any kind of decisive action that the results you want, they're always out there in the future.
Joanne, I know Joanne's actually going to be at our live event, so her and her husband are going to be there.
Amazing.
I would just want to give you a tip, okay? I can't do the whole exercise with you, but we'll do it at the live event, I promise. Forgiveness comes when compassion is present. You cannot forgive until you have compassion. When you can literally be in the other person's shoes, and that's what this woman did with this guy. When you can see life through their eyes, truly, forgiveness is just present. You know, the line that this is actually from the Bible, but like the line that's just been so present for me recently is, they know not what they do. Whenever you're just mad at someone or something, or someone does something that you think they shouldn't or should or whatever, it came to me in a meditation, and I was like, wow, they know not what they do.
Right? Like, I also think, I'm sorry. I also think that people often wait. They believe that in order for there to be conflict resolution, there needs to be agreement, right? We see this in politics all the time. If we could just agree, or they think if we compromise, right? People always talk about in relationships compromise, but what Elon's saying is so important. If you're willing to just consider that you may not be right, that you just have an occurring of what's happening, you can step out of your own viewpoint and go into their viewpoint and know that people are always doing the best with the way that the world is occurring to them at that point in time.
Yep.
So if you can get into the world and just say, like, how is this occurring to this person? You would get that in that situation, if the world occurred to you that way, you would probably take the same actions that person's taken.
Yep.
Right? You would bring the same thing to the table. And inside that space, you can always find forgiveness. You could always find common ground. You could always understand your common man, because that's all it is for any of us. There is no is reality. There just is thinking, and my thinking is leading me to have certain thoughts about the way things are occurring to me, and that occurring gives us the reality that we operate inside of. But there's 7.3 billion different occurrings on this planet right now, all operating independently from one another. And no one's world is occurring to them like the one inside your head. And even stranger than that is we take our occurring and then we map it onto somebody else, and we know that their world is occurring the same way as ours, so we predict and pretend like they're going to respond the way that we think that they will.
Yep.
Right? And we do, and by the way, you do that to yourself also. You apply this occurring to yourself, like it's the truth, the way things are, instead of just seeing it's just the way it's occurring to me. Keep going.
Yeah, so that's it. And then, so we'll definitely cover that at the live event. And Ole is asking, is visualization a way or tool to be able to do the things your analytical mind wants you to do? 1,000,000%. We do a lot of stuff with visualization. We're going to do stuff at the event with visualization. There's a lot of techniques. There's some that work really well. Here's what you want to get. Emotion, the frequency of emotion, the frequency of joy and love will manifest things faster than anything else. So if you're manifesting from scarcity or lack of or worry or concern, you will push that thing so far away from you, you'll never see it in this lifetime or the next. So the whole idea when we talk about cleaning up your integrity and making this literally squeaky clean, it's so that you can speak something into existence. You can visualize something, tap into all levels, all senses. So like Joanne's talking, like you have to reprogram your subconscious, your conscious, your emotion, your body, your thoughts, your words, your actions. When all that stuff lines up, if you look at your life, that's when you manifest stuff. If one of the things is not aligned, it does not happen. It just doesn't. So everything literally has to come together for it to happen. Visualization is a great technique to get the mind programmed to start doing that for you. So we'll discuss that again. And what I want to do, I'm going to try to share my screen here with you guys. And I just want to take you over to this page. Bro, I don't know if you can see it. Is it coming up? I can't hear you.
Yeah, I can see it. I can see it, yeah.
Okay, cool. So guys, I want to invite you obviously to come be at our live event. Joanne, like I said, Joanne and her husband are already in. It's November 3rd through the 5th. And that's the question we're going to be inquiring. What does having it all mean to you? Right? Your having it all is different than my having it all. It's different than guys having it all. Our process, the things that we're going to do with you over 2.5 days is not only creating what having it all looks like to you, but it's actually going to give you the tools on how to go get it. And not 10 years from now. So if that resonates with you, if you're done waiting for someday for your life to turn around, these 2.5 days will literally reprogram every fiber of your body. It will reprogram your brain. At a cellular level, you will walk out of this a different human being, okay? Now, what we're doing is we're giving this for $297, save your seat. So this is, by the way, the hotel that we're going to be at. It's gorgeous. And all you have to do to come to the event is put down a $297 reserve your seat deposit, or like Joanne did, want to reserve for you and a loved one. It's just $500. You will get a full refund. Bro, what was the date that we said? September 31st?
Yeah, if they buy before September 31st.
Okay, so if you grab this before September 31st, you get a 100% refund on there, okay? You will get the refund immediately after, like you'll show up to the event and immediately after we're going to process the refund for you. And that's it. It's as simple as we could possibly make it. The reason we take the deposit is we need to know how many seats to put down and what kind of event we need to structure. So if we said like, hey, it's free, give us your email address, there's going to be a whole lot of people not showing up. So that's it, guys. And if you can't,
and here's the thing. Here's what I invite you guys to do. We have a bunch of videos on there. I think, watch the trailer because you guys will get a sense of the kind of work that we've done with people. And mind you, the last event was a 1.5-day event. We've stretched this to 2.5. There's even a third day opportunity to be there, which we'll talk about if you take your deposit. This is like, we are doing incredible amount of work on ourselves intensively. I'm at a 10-day event right now. By the time we get to this next event, it's just like, this is going to transform into something magical and amazing. There's a lot of, for those of you guys, by the way, we have 20 seats available for a private training on the first day that's 4 hours long. So the event actually kicks off officially at 6 p.m. that day for a community dinner. So everybody who's coming to the event. Between 2 and 6, though, we're going to have a 4-hour training that's going to be exclusive to the people, to the first 20 people who buy tickets. So I think right now we're at like, I don't know, 13 or 14 sold, something like that. So we have about 6 spots left. Also, guys, for those of you that know you want, like family and friends would benefit from this, please feel free to share this content. But here's what I really wanted to tell you is the videos down below the original trailer, there's testimonials there. I personally think that is the most powerful stuff. Like Elon and I can tell you about our training and how great it is, blah, 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 and how much experience we have till we're blue in the face. I always say go look at what was produced out of people coming to an event. And again, mind you, that was 24 hours less of content and our ability to interact with people. We're really stepping it up in terms of like live coaching with this event, in terms of what we're going to do, subconscious reprogramming. But I want you to just look at, people's eyes and their body language and all those things so you can see what they took away from that short period of time of being there. And I promise you, these people's lives have not been the same since, because a lot of them are still working with us and we've been tracking them for the last 6 months to see the stuff they're producing in their life. And it's fucking astonishing. So, our intention, our why, Elon and I are here to like mess some shit up. Like we are here to transform some serious people's lives.
In the best way possible.
So, in the best way possible. And, this event, we really want to establish as a large community event. And it's really a start for something. So again, if you hear something for yourself, like, absolutely, you're welcome. Come be part of our family. If there's other people in your life that that would benefit from this kind of conversation, from this kind of experience, please feel free to share that page with them as well. And just know that, again, that 100% refund is available to you as long as you participate and you buy before September 31st, right? So we're giving you time to figure out your logistic plans and blah, 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 blah. Also, if you need information on the hotel and getting rooms available, please give them the email addresses, okay?
Yeah, guys, if you have any questions, I'm going to make this very personal. Elon, ILAN, @satoriprime.com. Fire off the questions. Even if I need to get on the phone with you and chat with you, we'll do that. We want the best people there, right? And if you feel like you're one of those, like I said in the first one, if you're a weirdo fringe dweller like the rest of us, come be amongst your own, right? Come learn, grow, and be on this journey with everyone. It's very difficult to do this on your own. You can read a million books, you can watch a million movies. Just be honest with yourself. Is it moving the needle? And if it's not, we've made this as easy as humanly possible for you to come out and check us out. And bro, with that, I'm good. So unless you have anything else to say, we can.
Just do me a favor and drop the link in the box or reiterate the link so that they have it.
Yep.
And are they aware of the group coaching?
No. Talk about it.
Okay. So look, guys, obviously we want you at the live event, right? Like there's so much we could do with you face to face, interact with you. If you absolutely know that either the dates don't work for you or you can't make it to San Diego for some reason, I personally think that I don't have time and I don't have money are really shitty excuses. And I've hampered most of your lives for a really long period of time. And if you want to have a conversation about how to transform that conversation so you can start having access to the things you really want in life, definitely email Elon. Like 100% email Elon. But if you absolutely know that you can't be there, we also have online group coaching that meets bi-weekly for 2 to 2.5 hours so up between 4 and 5 hours every single month in a group setting, and that you can find at youwillhaveitall.com without the /live. So it's on that page too. You can check it out. There's a presentation we did there a few months ago, and like that's a way for you to be engaged in this kind of level of conversation consistently, because it's one thing to have experience, it's another thing to start making things into habits, and that's really important also. So we've created structures that make it easy for anybody to get involved in these kind of conversations. It also might be a good thing for you, like if you're like, I'm considering this live event thing, I don't really know who these two brothers are, blah, blah, blah. It might be a good opportunity for you to check out our style of coaching for a little while and then decide if you want to come to the live event anyway, okay? So just another opportunity for you to work with us inside of our community structure and still get this kind of training on a consistent basis. So I just want to make sure people know that too.
Yep, 100%. All right, guys. As always, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy lives. I know that's one commodity that no matter how wealthy you are, you will never get back your time. So it means the world to us that you're here. And I hope that you got a tremendous amount of value. And more than that, I hope that it's not just, that was really that was really amazing. I more hope that you actually go and use this stuff in your life so that you see that it works. Make that list. Go clean up at least one of these relationships. Do that this week. Come back here next week and share with us.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
It would be amazing. And I'm telling you, I got an email like 2 days after the last one of a guy that completely changed his relationship with his dad. And a day after that, a check that he was supposed to get actually got much bigger. And he got a new project. Look, it's all tied in. I don't know how or why or how this shit works. I'm just telling you. When you're focused just on I want to make more money, you're missing the point. The breakthrough around money will come when you have a breakthrough around sex or a breakthrough around a relationship or a breakthrough around health. It's all interconnected. All of it. So just have a think about that. Love you guys, and thank you so much. And we'll be doing this again next week.
Beautiful. That was a blast. I'm glad I made it.
Thanks.
Love you, brother. I'll talk to you later.
Love you.
Yeah,
Bye.
I love you. Bye.
So that's it, my friends. That's today's episode. I just want to thank you for being part of our Have It All family, and truly, truly thank you for listening to our podcast. If you'd like to help or give back in any way possible, the best way would be to share this or any other episode that you loved with your family, friends, or colleagues. And if you'd be so great as to just leave us a rating and a comment on either iTunes or Stitcher, whichever you use, that helps us tremendously. It only takes about 2 to 3 minutes of your time and would mean the world to us. Finally, I want to let you know that if you want to get even more exclusive content from Guy and I, just head over to satoriprime.com and make sure you join our mailing list. Now, I know what you might be thinking, God, not another mailing list, but I promise you, you'll only get an email or two from us per week, and it will always have amazing videos and articles that I'm sure you're going to love. Promise. So until next time, you can join our ongoing conversation at the Have It All Facebook group, where you can let us know how we're doing and what we can do to improve. Love you all, and we'll see you on the next Have It All podcast. Have an amazing, amazing day, my friends.